For a lot of fan bases, another week of the NFL means just another week closer to the NFL draft. The season has not gone according to plan for a lot of teams, as you see the Chiefs picking in the top 15 projected. Of course, my Giants in the top 10. They play the Chiefs tonight. Should be an interesting game. The Chiefs really haven't been all that good. I think it's certainly less than what expectations were. But for me as a Giants fan, I've been looking to the draft, about week 3 of every season for the past 5 or 6 seasons. It's another time for a mock draft. These happen pretty frequently on the channel. It will ramp up to about once a week, but for now it's going to be once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. You guys have seen them on the channel. So if you're not subscribed already, make sure to subscribe. And let's go ahead and pop in here with a little bit more speed than we usually do. Lions pick at number 1 overall. Listen, people in my comments on the previous mock draft were saying, and not about the Lions, but about other teams, like, oh, why would they take a quarterback at 6 when they could just wait and get one later? There really isn't wait and get a quarterback later most times. Quarterbacks just go early. That's just what happens. It's the most important position in the league, and where Daniel Jones goes number 6 overall, like, that's not a rarity. Jared Goff went at number 1. Carson Wentz went at number 2, and teams moved up to get those players. And obviously we know that they're not great QBs now, but they weren't like once in a generation, as the people love to say, generational quarterback talents. They were like, okay, with potential. And teams moved up a ton to take away number 1 and 2. Quarterbacks just go early. There really isn't waiting for a quarterback in a lot of different cases. So that's out of the way. I don't think the Lions are going to take one at 1. Jared Goff is bad, but I think Kayvon Thibodeau is the call here at number 1. The Lions have really started to rebuild in the trenches first, which I love, because that's the foundation for successful teams more often than not. You have to have that quarterback, but building up both lines has proven to be really successful for a lot of different teams. And I think adding a player like Kayvon Thibodeau that can be an impact player on the edge is going to be absolutely the move for the Lions at 1, at least as it stands right now. And we actually get to a very, very tough decision for the Texans at number 2. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing them move down here because they are a potential quarterback needy team. I think we all know that Davis Mills is not the answer. Do you take Derek Stingley here? Do you take Aiden Hutchinson? It's a pretty tough call, actually. Even Evan Neal. I wouldn't hate to see the Texans invest in a really good offensive lineman, maybe a right tackle on the other side from Laramie Tunsil. But this is kind of a tough call for the Texans. Again, I think this could be a trade down in real life as the board stands right now. But in a no trade scenario, which is what we're doing here, just for the sake of continuity, we're going to have the Texans at number 2. And I talked in my last one about positional value. I had Aiden Hutchinson going at number 2. Evan Neal would make sense for positional value, tackle and edger at the top. It's a really, really tough call for me. I think Derek Stingley's a great player. And I'm not really sure anyone else is super in play for the number 2 overall pick. It's a bit of a tough call. Like, obviously quarterbacks are in there as well, but the play of these QBs is kind of, I don't want to say dropped off, but it hasn't been to the level of like a top 2 or 3 pick in the draft, in my opinion. I'm spending a long time on this pick. It's just really tough to know what the Texans will do. There are a lot of different things in play. I really think in terms of positional value, Aiden Hutchinson makes a ton of sense here. He's a really good player. George Karlaftis is too. It's a really good edge class this year, and there is good value down the board with like an Adam Anderson, and Nick Bonito is great. I mean, there's a bunch of potential. I mean, we're going to see some risers too. Like Arnold Ebiketie and Jermaine Johnson have been great this year. David Ojabo's rising up the board. I might throw him into the first round, honestly. Who knows? But yeah, I spent a long time on this. I'm sorry for rambling. I just really don't know what I want to do here. I think I'll go with maybe the best player available in Derek Stingley Jr. Steal him away from the Eagles, who pick at number 3. The Eagles are in an interesting spot. They really are. They're a pretty bad team. They're a quarterback needy team. And if you're going to take a quarterback, you may have the option to take one at 8, but you might not get who you want. So do you opt to go with just best player available? It's another tough call. I don't think that Kyle Hamilton goes third overall. I just haven't seen a safety go that high in a while, but Kyle Hamilton's the best one we've seen in a while. You know what? I will go Kyle Hamilton. Extremely just big, tall, fast safety, incredible instincts, and incredible range. He can really play a number of different roles, whether it's field safety, covering, you know, a ton of ground, or boundary safety. He's a really, really good player and offers you a heat-seeking missile and run support as well. Kyle Hamilton's a great player. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go top 5. It feels a bit early for a safety, but I think you got to think of him as more than just a traditional safety. Jaguars at 4. Could use an edge presence on the other side of Josh Allen, not the quarterback. But I'm going to go with Evan Neal here. I think you're going to have to improve that offensive line one way or another. It's not a terrible offensive line. They're decent at run blocking. Pass protection leaves a bit to be desired. Cam Robinson's playing under the franchise tag. Who knows how much longer he's going to stay on the team. I think Evan Neal to be a plug-and-play starter at left tackle makes a ton of sense for the Jaguars. And here we get to Washington football team. I really think this is the first spot we're going to see a quarterback go. And there really, to me, isn't waiting for a quarterback. There's just not. Quarterbacks are so valuable. They're going to go early. I think you'll see probably, depending on who's in there, 1 or 2 quarterbacks go top 10 this year. So it makes sense for me to put one here at 5. I'm going to go with Malik Willis. Matt Corral is real fun. But, I mean, so is Malik Willis. We'll talk about Malik Willis a bit here. Does 1 or 2 unbelievable, amazing throws a game take away from a few misses that you'll see on the same drive? It's kind of a tough call. The consistency's not there, but the potential is. If you can tap in to, you know, his few unbelievable plays a game, you could have a really, really good player. It's easier said than done. The potential's there. You actually keep him somewhat local, going from Liberty here to Washington football team. Seeing a Liberty player go top 5 is insane, but if anyone would, it would be Malik Willis. Sky high potential, big, strong guy, rocket arm. Got to develop that consistency. Jets here at number 6. I don't really think edge is as big of a need as is shown here. John Franklin Myers is one of the most underrated players in the league. Carl Lawson will be back and healthy. Sure, it would be good to have a rotational guy and a potential, like, more traditional stand-up, outside linebacker type pass rusher. I know they're in a 4-3, but I'm talking about a speed rusher more than John Franklin Myers, who's, even though he's a good pass rusher, great edge setter, great run defender. I think that's something you could probably take later in the draft, round 2 or round 3. A real, like, 3rd and long, go in there, get after the quarterback type guy. At number 6, we're not going to be doing that. We have to invest in the secondary. It's such a bad secondary, man. Like, don't get me wrong. Bryce Hall's played great this year. Don't get me wrong. Cornerback is still a huge need. And there are probably about 3 guys that I could see going at this spot. I'm a big Andrew Booth Jr. guy. Kaiir Elam's dealt with some injuries, and Ahmad Gardner's been really good this year. And for that reason, let's ride the hot hand. Let's put Ahmad Gardner in here at 6. It's a little early, but I think he's a really good player. So we could see that. Giants at 7. Kind of set this up pretty nicely. This is tough. I think I had the same decision last time where it was, do we take DeMarvin Leal or do we go Aiden Hutchinson? Do you want the edge guy or do you want the 3-4 defensive end that the Giants really don't have a good one right now? You could move Dexter Lawrence over to nose tackle. You have Leonard Williams, and DeMarvin Leal could be that other, like, 3-tech type player. And he also has the chops to play on the edge. He's done a bunch of different things for Texas A&M. I know the Bleacher Report guys seem to be a little bit lower on DeMarvin Leal, or a lot lower than the consensus is so far. And I watched DeMarvin Leal play last year, and he was really, really good. Haven't seen a ton of him play this year just because I haven't watched a ton of A&M, except for the Alabama game where he really didn't do a ton. So, yeah, I think he's a really good fit for the team, but the Giants need a big-time edge rusher and a real, actual, not like he's a decent pass rusher, just a do-it-all dominant edge defender, and that is Aiden Hutchinson. He's incredible. He could go a lot higher than this. Again, he was in play at number 2 for me. I think he's in play at number 3. I think he's in play at number 4. and even number 6 maybe, but he drops to 7 in this scenario. He's a really, really good player. Technically very sound, but also a really good athlete. I'm not sure what his 40 is going to be, but he's going to test really, really well overall. Again, I could see him going higher than 7, but my bias, I guess, dropped him to the Giants at 7. No, but it's just how it played out based on the other team needs. Eagles at number 8, their second pick. I could see this being a quarterback. I really could. The Eagles have a lot of needs, man. They really, really do. They really do. This is shaping up to be an interesting draft so far, just based on the order, because Eagles have 8 and 9, and then the Jets have 10. A lot of teams double dipping here inside the top 11. But the Eagles at 8, I think we're going to go quarterback here. We're going to go Matt Corral. Amazing arm. I mean, the arm talent is certainly there. He can hit throws that just a lot of other quarterbacks don't have the potential to make, just because he's got a really, really quick release and a strong arm. Obviously, if you watch Matt Corral play, his legs are a big part of his game as well. I think they could work well in the Philadelphia offense. They, you know, it's like an upgraded Jalen Hurts, right? And Jalen Hurts is bad. I'm not going to mince words with that. I just don't think he's a very good player. Matt Corral has potential. Again, you're working on consistency, and it would be interesting to see what he's capable of outside of the Ole Miss offense, where you're going to be more reliant on him throwing the football. Again, it's a bit of a project because you got to work on that consistency overall, but the potential is there, and they have back-to-back picks. I think I would like to go corner here. Their offensive line's in a bit of a rough spot because injuries have ravaged this team, you know, year in and year out. And then you just don't see Brandon Brooks play hardly ever. And how much more does Jason Kelce have in the tank? But you're not going to take an interior offensive lineman here at number 9, in my opinion. I think we're going to go corner, and we'll go Kaiir Elam out of Florida. Again, really solid player. Injuries have been a bit of a concern, but the Eagles are in a situation where they could go best player available a lot of the time. And if you have 3 top 10 picks, I don't think it's crazy to go with a quarterback. I don't think it's crazy to go with a QB. Teams could move up in here. If the Eagles were smart, and Howie Roseman's the GM, so I'm not sure how much I can say about that. But if the Eagles were smart, like, yeah, it would be really cool to, you know, take all these top picks and get all these really, really highly valued players. And you can do that, right? But for quarterback needy teams, if I were running the Eagles, and obviously, you know, I'm not, I'm just some YouTuber, as many of you would say, right? I would trade down. I would see what teams are trying to move up for a quarterback, because inevitably there will be some. I think we're looking at Denver. We're looking at potentially Atlanta. I mean, we're probably not looking at the Giants, right? We could be looking at Carolina. We could be looking at Minnesota. We could be looking at Pittsburgh, New Orleans. Like, there are teams that could move up for a QB, right? So get as many picks as you can and stockpile and really rebuild your team through quantity while getting quality, because you will be getting good picks for those high picks, depending on what they were to trade away. Jets at number 10. We went to the corner earlier in Ahmad Gardner. The Jets are in another kind of weird spot where I think this could end up being a little bit of a weird one. I almost want to go with the big play receiver, right? I know you look at the Jets, you say, receiver's not really their biggest need. Elijah Moore, maybe you develop Denzel Mims, you have Jamison Crowder, right? You brought in Corey Davis. But it could be a situation like the Giants had last year, where they ended up with Kadarius Toney. The Jets do have certainly other needs in that. Could get a big right tackle to really just boost that offensive line, give Zach Wilson a ton of time. And maybe that's what I do here. Maybe that's what I do. I think Ike Mekwonu is going to be available. Is he listed at guard? He's listed at guard. He's going to play tackle, I think. He's a good enough player to play tackle, and you could move Mekhi Becton over to right tackle. He played a lot of that at Louisville. Mekhi Becton is a freak athlete, injuries have been a concern for him already in his young career. You hate to see it because he's a beast. You probably don't move him from left tackle because he's been so good over there. But Ikem Ekwonu has experience at guard, has experience at tackle. I think you could move him over to right tackle and not have any problems. He is big, mean, athletic. He was a great run blocker going into the year, not defender. He was a great run blocker going into the year, and now has excelled in pass pro. Really, really good player. Devastated as a Giants fan that he's not available at 11, because that would be the pick for me there for sure. I think Ikem Ekwonu is phenomenal. And again, I think he's going to be a tackle. Keep that in mind. Giants at 11. Took Aiden Hutchinson earlier. I think this probably needs to be an offensive lineman. Charles Cross has played pretty well this year. I can see Trevor Penning going in this range, honestly. I know the stock of Nicholas Petit-Frere is real high right now. And if you look at interior offensive line, like Kenyon Green's great. Tyler Linderbaum is a phenomenal center. Darian Kennard could play right tackle, right? You have a lot of options here. I kind of want to go DeMarvin Leal. I know that seems insane. I can't because the offensive line just needs so much help. And I think I've gone Kenyon Green a lot at this spot just because he's another guy who played left guard and now is playing left tackle. You got to value that type of athleticism and versatility. And oftentimes, like, the best tackles can be really, really good guards at times, right? And even vice versa in some scenarios. Some players can just do it all. Look at Zach Martin, for example, right? Kenyon Green, I'm not comparing him to Zach Martin, but if you can play left guard and left tackle at a high level, your value is going to increase to a lot of teams because they can not only play you at a number of different positions if injury happens, but they can decide where your best fit is on a bad offensive line. Where Andrew Thomas is probably going to be your left tackle, right? But maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, with injury to Andrew Thomas for the Giants, they've had, Matt Parrott step over there, and he actually played well at left tackle, even though he's not been good at right tackle. Everything's reversed. So it's not everyone can do it, especially with your drive leg for pass sets. Like, not everyone can just have the same spring from the other leg. Right? These things are things that probably the average guy doesn't think about, but they're really important. Look at Penei Sewell, how bad he was at right tackle and how decent he's been at left tackle. So there's a lot to consider there. But for me, I did talk about this a while just to go Kenyon Green. I'd like to go Nakobe Dean there. We didn't really talk about him, but the offensive line needs to be addressed at some point. We got to get a premier offensive lineman in there, and Kenyon Green was the guy for me there. But Nakobe Dean was someone that I could see him going, in the teens somewhere. It's an interesting linebacker class, and he is a really, really good one. It's interesting they ranked Devin Lloyd at number 1 now. I was just talking about him, and I'm like, he's going to be a riser, but I didn't think he was going to move up to LB1 for the Draft Network's predictive board. Right now, I would probably have it. I think Nakobe Dean's the best one, honestly. I probably have Nakobe Dean, Christian Harrison, Brandon Smith as a toss-up, and then I would have Devin Lloyd, and then maybe DeMarvion Overshown, and then Henry To'oTo'o. I don't know. Something like that. Falcons at 12, though. I think DeMarvin Leal is just too good to pass up. And again, you get versatility, which is extremely important to a lot of teams nowadays, and that is really going to shoot some other players up. So DeMarvin Leal falls to 12. I've had him fall on a lot of these so far. Just to me, based on the rest of the board and the rest of these teams' picks, it didn't make sense for other teams to draft those players. Move myself over to the right side of the screen, by the way, so you can see the rest of the board. I mean, we've had multiple teams pick multiple times so far, just the top 11. Giants twice, Eagles 3 times, Jets twice, and now the Dolphins, who are picking from the 49ers. Their actual pick is this one, I believe. Right? I think that's the Dolphins pick. But this is the 49ers pick at 13. I think this is a best player available situation. I would like to go offensive line, though. Could go Tyler Linderbaum at center. I'm not going to. I'm going to go Darian Kennard. Really good for Kentucky. Again, can play right tackle and I talked about it already, but versatility is valued. He's a really good player. You could see him going somewhere in this range, and the Dolphins desperately need to boost their offensive line. Tua needs time, and Tua has shown that he can potentially be that guy going forward. We don't need to worry about quarterback. Don't need to worry about Deshaun Watson. Keep this pick. Take a player that can help out your team. Chiefs at 14. Seems wild. But here the Chiefs are, and their secondary is terrible. They get no pressure on the quarterback. This is best player available, and to me, that's going to be George Karlaftis for this team. Just has to be the gun. Has to be the one. They need to put pressure on the quarterback. They're not doing that. And it's making their secondary look even worse than it is. Like, you do have something with L'Jarius Sneed. Tyrann Mathieu, one of the best players in the secondary for all of football, not just safeties, right? He's one of the best overall players. And you got to take the heat off of them a little bit with some pass rush. And George Karlaftis is going to be the guy for me there. He feels like he would have been like a classic fit for the Patriots otherwise. Patriots at 15. I think this should be a corner. And it's just got to be Andrew Booth Jr. based on the board. Listen, I don't mind a receiver there because they do desperately need help at the position. Like, desperately. Don't get me wrong. But losing Stephon Gilmore, JC Jackson's a free agent. Maybe he chooses to leave. You have to consider what your cornerback group is going to look like if that were to happen. And it would be paper thin. Going with a corner there. I like Olave. I like Garrett Wilson. I think they're great. I like Treylon Burks. If we scroll down more, I like Drake London. I like Jahan Dotson. And there are some really good, like, injured receivers that I like quite a bit. Like, George Pickens is coming back. But, you know, preseason, I thought he could have been the best receiver in this draft class. Wan'Dale Robinson is real great. Jameson Williams is playing his way into the first round, right? If not for injury, who knows what we'd be saying about Justin Ross right now, or Dante Demas. Like, a bunch of really, really good receivers. John Mechie's great too, but injuries aren't a concern for him. Receiver is in play in the second round, big time. And we might see a run of receivers later down the board, because these guys are not going to last forever. And I think the Browns are probably certainly in play for one at 18. But Broncos at 16. You couldn't get a quarterback inside the top 10 because there are no trade-ups. But I'm probably going to take a QB here. Just because I know how big of a need it is for them. What do you want here? I mean, I think these four quarterbacks are potentially in play to go here. Kenny Pickett's the most accurate. Carson Strong has the best arm. Sam Howell is the most familiar with an RPO-based system and gets the ball out quickly and can run a little bit. And Desmond Ritter's probably the most balanced of the four. You got a lot of different things here. Love Kenny Pickett playing his way to a Heisman right now, although I think probably Kenneth Walker's a little bit ahead of him. I am going with the QB. I don't think Kenny Pickett goes this high. I don't. I think he's good. I just don't think he goes quite this high. I'm going to say Carson Strong is a big riser. He's got an incredible arm. He can make these unbelievable tight window throws. I know the Broncos have been fooled before on quarterbacks. They thought Paxton Lynch could be their franchise guy. They thought for a second that Brock Osweiler maybe could be their franchise guy, right? But Carson Strong is a little bit different than those guys, where he can actually throw the ball accurately. A little bit, right? So you're, again, with all the quarterbacks we talked about in this class, you're banking on more consistency and the potential, but in the same way that Josh Allen went top 10, I think Carson Strong could go top 20. I'm surprised that the Draft Network still lists corner as a position need for the Panthers after trading for CJ Henderson and Stephon Gilmore, and you're going to be getting your top 10 pick in JC Horn back next year. I probably wouldn't consider that a top 3 position of need for them. I think offensive line is much more in play here. Quarterback is still, but you have Sam Darnold. Maybe you believe in him. I'm not sure why. I'm not going to make this too hard of a decision. We're going Charles Cross here. He's played really well for Mississippi State. He's played really, really well. Was one of the top-ranked tackles going into the year, and has, I think, solidified that spot. And I am going receiver here. I've already talked about it. We're going to keep one of these Ohio State receivers in state from the long drive from Columbus, Ohio to Cleveland. But we're going to go with, I think Garrett Wilson's just the best one. I like Olave. He's a smooth operator. I think you're going to hear that throughout draft season. Everything he does is smooth. Doesn't look like he's trying overly hard, and he just, again, just so fluid in and out of his breaks. Olave is a really, really good player. Really solid. I think Garrett Wilson's a little bit better. And maybe that's because I like the twitchier athlete with the higher ceiling, potentially. But I love Garrett Wilson as a player. I think he's receiver 1 in the class still for me. And the Browns need a receiver. Baker and Odell cannot get on the same page. Jarvis Landry is a good locker room guy. And they have Rashard Higgins and Donovan Peoples-Jones as your next best options. Anthony Schwartz really shouldn't be playing. I mean, I hate to be rude there, but he shouldn't be playing. Sorry. Vikings at 19. Quarterbacks in play here. I don't know how Kirk Cousins continues to fool some of you guys into thinking he's a good quarterback. He's not. He's not. His numbers are going to look fine. Every year they'll look fine. He doesn't win you games. That being said, there are more pressing needs probably than quarterback based on 3 QBs being off the board too. I think Kellen Mond has decent potential. I don't know if he'll ever be a starter, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a good one. Like he's one of those type players, like a Dak Prescott, where I really didn't believe in him coming out of Mississippi State, that he could be, you know, a franchise guy. And look at Dak Prescott now. He is without question one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, and higher than that even. Vikings at 19 though, this is a disaster. It's a bad team right now. It really is. Jordan Davis kind of sticks out for me right now, but I think secondary is more pressing. I do like the safety class. The safety class doesn't get any love. I think the safeties are pretty good. Like, and I could point to a lot of these guys. I like a lot of these players. I like Jaquan Brisker. I like Daxton Hill. Jordan Battle makes some plays. I like Veron McKinley. Jalen Catalon is lightning in a bottle. Brandon Joseph is a ball hawk. Lewis Seen is a big hitter. I mean, Marquise Bell is probably the best small school player in the country. And I don't mean safety. I mean player. Like, he's incredible. And I've watched him at Florida A&M. He's awesome. Great athlete, too. He's going to end up going higher than you think, probably. It would be my bet. But do we consider corner here as well? I like Trent McDuffie at this spot. Roger McCreary's played so well for Auburn. He's ranked number 56 now. I think he's a first-round guy. But we're going to go safety. I'm going to go Daxton Hill. I like Daxton Hill, man. Great athlete. I think he offers you some chops at slot corner as well. Played corner in high school. Really good player. Really good athlete, too. And we see the second safety go off the board here. And then at number 20, I am going to go Jordan Davis. The Chargers run D is terrible. And getting a player like this to nose tackle at 20 offers you some pass rush ability. He's a really, really good athlete for his size. And that's just not, you know, because he's what, like 6'3", 6'4", 330? 6'6", 340. Okay, so even bigger than I thought, right? Moves really well. Moves really well. And if he's eating up blocks, it's going to make the job of the linebackers a lot easier in the back end. Talk about healthy Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquill. Going to make their job a lot easier. Steelers at 21. This is a tough one for me because quarterback obviously stands out. It really does. They need a QB, but you got to improve the line. And they've shown that they don't care about doing that, but they really need to. I'm going to go Trevor Penning here. He's another really good small school player, FCS Northern Iowa, right? But really, really good player, freak athlete. I would not be shocked to see his name called in the first round, and maybe even higher than this. Really, really good. Bengals at 22. I kind of want to get crazy. I kind of want to get really crazy here. I'm going with a tackle. I'm going to go with Bernhard Raymond out of Central Michigan. Really, really fun story with him is he's fairly new to football. He's only been playing it for a small amount of time. He is German, I believe, and if the name didn't give it away, and is so technically sound. I saw a piece done by Dane Brugler about him in The Athletic, and this is a player that is rising up boards and certainly could be a first-round player if you're banking on potential, because he's only really been playing tackle for like 2 years. I want to say, and is already really, really good technically and is a good athlete. So if you can continue to develop him, sky high potential, I think there's a team that could take a shot on him pretty high. Saints at 23. Quarterback is still in play for a team like this, but their receivers are real bad. And I think I did this last time, but Chris Olave makes too much sense not to take here. New Orleans loves their Ohio State guys, and you're going to love Chris Olave. I think he's the perfect receiver too. And that's just not for the Saints, it just in general. Chris Olave, to me, I'm not sure if he's ever going to be like a dominant receiver one type player, but as a Z on the other side of Michael Thomas, I think Chris Olave is a perfect foil type player that offers you a deep threat, really, really good route runner. And again, with a healthy Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, you go from bottom 3 receiver core in the league as it stands right now as I record this to, you know, moving on up, right? So Chris Olave, I think he's just a perfect fit if he were available here at 23. Bucks at 24. I don't really know that IDL is a huge need for them, but Ndamukong Suh is getting older, right? William Golston's not the best ever, especially not the best, you know, 3-4 defensive end for them. You can go with a lot of different things here. You can go with a lot of different things. What do I want? I think I got to go corner. And let's go Roger McCreary out of Auburn. Listen, the Bucks corners have been disastrous this year, and a lot of that can be attributed to injury. Losing Sean Murphy-Bunting, having Jamel Dean be injured, having, you know, Carlton Davis be injured. You're forced to play Richard Sherman, and that's, you can't have that happen in 2021. You just can't. So cornerback depth is so important. And maybe this is a bit of a stretch here because you are going to get those guys back and healthy. But I just think it's such a need for them right now. And maybe that's just because it's right now, a little bit of recency bias. They need a corner, they need a corner, they need a corner. But they need a corner. Bills at 25. Their defense is awesome. I want to go Kenneth Walker here. I want to go Kenneth Walker because it's fun. I really do. I think he could sneak into the first round, and this team makes the most sense. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Listen, the Bills have a smothering defense. Their offense does the job, but getting a bell cow running back that can really be a game changer for you, could take that offense to the next level. I'm going Kenneth Walker. Raiders at 26. They've reached in the past. Their offensive line's so bad, dude. I'm going Tyler Linderbaum. The best center in the draft right now. The Raiders don't have Rodney Hudson anymore. I don't really think I have to explain this one too much. Cowboys at 27. Cowboys are an interesting spot. They're a good team. Their defense is clearly the worst side of the ball for them. I'm going to do another like huge reach here on a player who's hot. And that's going to be David Ojabo out of Michigan. Another guy who has not been playing the sport for all that long. David Ojabo was born in Nigeria, moved to Scotland in the UK, and then moved to the US for high school. And then ended up getting recruited. I think I want to say New Jersey. I could be wrong about that, but I want to say he went to high school in New Jersey. That part is not super relevant. And then got recruited to Michigan, and again has not been playing the sport for all that long. Is a crazy athlete and gets better week in and week out. And you're watching him on the Michigan defense just making plays every single week, and it continues to get better is the big thing. So the same way that I think Bernard Raymond's going to be a riser, I think David Ojabo could potentially end up going first round. Again, this is, you know, reaching quite a bit. But he's a really, really good player. As we get to the Packers at 28. I think we're going to go linebacker here. Nakobe Dean's just still sitting there. I'm just going to go with him. Haven't really seen any linebackers go so far. It's not the strongest linebacker class ever. Like, you're banking on some good athletes. Brandon Smith is a great athlete. Nakobe Dean's a great athlete. Christian Harris is a pretty good athlete too, as is Devin Lloyd. But Nakobe Dean, to me, is just the bigger playmaker of the bunch. He is like the Roquan Smith of the Bears. Both Georgia linebackers. He's not a phenomenal comp, right? But sideline to sideline guys that find the football. He moves really, really well. Really instinctive. Packers could use help at that position. And Nakobe Dean, to me, was just best player available, is why I'm pulling the trigger there. Ravens at 29. You need edge help desperately. Odafe always played real well. You need more than that. You need more than that. Who do I like at the spot? I really... I like Trayvon Walker, not because he's an edge player, because I see him as like potentially playing a Calais Campbell role for the Ravens, where he can line up inside and outside. He's a big guy. 6'5", 275 he's listed at. Really, really good player. And has experience playing on both the edge. I've seen him drop back into coverage, and I think he's got 3-tech potential too, even though he's a little bit undersized. But I think he can play in a 3-4 defense as a 3-4 like edge slide inside guy on pass rush downs. I like him as a player. I'm not sure he's going to go round 1. What else? What else could we consider here? No, I think I'm going to stick with edge. I mean, it's tough to fit everybody into the first round. Who have I ignored so far? Bunch of good receivers available. Some good QBs, potentially. Yeah, a bunch of good players still available, right? A bunch of good players still available. Let's go. Man. I'm going to go with a real stand-up pass rusher, and that's Adam Anderson. Really good athlete, too. Really good athlete. And I think he'd be a good combo alongside Dafe Owe, or on the other side, I should say. Really good player. Only continues to get better, too. Kind of a weird pick there for the Ravens. I think they could go a number of different things. Wouldn't be shocked if you disagreed. But Cardinals at 30. What do the Cardinals really need? What do the Cardinals really need? I think I'd love to go corner. It's just like Marco Wilson to me, and I said this in the last video, I got some backlash for this. I just don't think he's it, man. I don't think he is. He is exceeded my expectations so far because I didn't see him as a real starting caliber corner, and he's been starting. Right, Byron Murphy is a potential free agent. I'm going to go corner here. And it's a good corner class. Darion Kendricks played so great for Georgia, but there's some off-field issues with him. He got kicked out of Clemson pretty much. Let's go Trent McDuffie. Another Washington corner. Maybe that somehow convinces Byron Murphy to stay. Not that he's potentially going to leave anyway, but, will be a free agent pretty soon. But we got to look long term too. Trent McDuffie I have no problem with. Titans at 31. We're going linebacker. I'm going to go Brandon Smith. Yeah, Christian Harris dropping another first. Feels kind of wild, but Brandon Smith is a really, really good athlete. And what defense cannot use more athletes? It's my explanation there. And then for the Lions, you could go quarterback here. You could go quarterback. I think these three guys have a chance to go round 1. Ritter, Howell, Pickett. I think they could. I think the order would probably be Howell, Pickett, Ritter, something like that. It's tough. I just don't think they need to force themselves into taking a quarterback. You think you're probably going to be pretty bad next year? Bryce Young at Alabama, maybe? Do you wait for a QB? I think you do. I think you should. They could use some talent at receiver. That's for sure. And you know what? Drake London just got injured, man. It's so tough. I am going to go... I'm going to go with Jaquan Brisker. I know that seems wild. I talked up receiver I think Jaquan Brisker is probably a first-round player. I think a bunch of guys could sneak in first round. Really, really instinctive, nose for the football. I've talked about this before, but injuries to me are a concern with him. I just see him get injured every game, pretty much. But there's not a guy, in my opinion, that makes a bigger impact for the Penn State defense. Not even Brandon Smith. Jaquan Brisker is the X factor for the Penn State defense. He is all around the football. It just finds him. And that is an extremely important talent to have. Really, really good player. And high effort. I mean, he just checks all the boxes in the back end. So that is my new mock draft. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Let me know where you disagree. What player do you want for your team? What player do you wish I chose for your team? And of course, include the team as well. And I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.
I hit it at the park, bend bones. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game, Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah, promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah, yeah. Papa turn, taking it back to the house. Defensive joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speedbird's good.